Jumbo, Jondi, Dishin, Shebo, Jumbo, Yanda, Tobe, Sangi, Ribo, Dan, Shazo, Demba, Devora, Shebo, Chidin, Jemba, Tiu, Due, Gualo, Juba, Lana, Meba, Lana, Menangi, Jumbo, Sangi, Jumbo, Benjewo, Shaja, Tuba, Jate, Lo, Chudo, Jazu, Jumbo, Jumde, de, Jin, Jebo, Zha, Jumbo, Yanda, Bai, Zobe, Sangi, Riba, Dang, Yazo, Dembara, Dewa, Jimbo, Jiden, Jimbo, Jibu, Zube, Panu, Lana, Mebo, Hada, Mina, Ye, Jumba, Sangi, Jumde, Be, Yewa, Shaja, Tubo, La, Chadalo, Shudu, Jazo, Jewo, Utama Jonde de Shen Shenpo Rajompa Yanda Pare Tope Sangye Rikpa Dang Shazun Dembara Devara Shepa Jiten Jempa Jewo Dule Kalu Dana Meba Sada Menange Jompa Sangye Jonde de Yaja Tuba La Chazen Lo Chudu Jak Jewo Ade Kani Zobo Chedante Dena Gomba Limborne Mane Jidin Dena Chote Teze Jeba Jela Chaze Nanda Gomba Chodo Suzama Ishe Gyazo Serge Lumbona Chaba Jidin Zona Lamewa Gombo Junye Chela Chaze Sendo Demba Chime Dawe Sendo Chawa Jela Chaze Duje Jena Seba Suma Chi Nyame Kyuni Shula Cha Bo Tuji Jendemba Tamje Gembe Tomba Sona Yeden Gazo Jin Deshin Shela Cha Abe Deja Tewa Yu Gewe Nyeson Lecho Jilu Dunda Juju Ba Shiyu Jula Cha Kone Shoyen Tienje Damba Yenden Gendu Laya Cha Deba Jia Meja Sin Jewa Punzum Sopare Rangi Sene Yonzu Du Dene Sange Demba Yin Amara De Mame Dan Gyuma Sebo Chur Dan Mela Lodan Tinda Bu Duje Jena Dida Kohon Tone Jinje Rabu Kada Nada Chive Lapchupe Sive Tore Roa. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, as supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you, who are wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, one of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior, having great compassion, the Founder, having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that dharma which pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, the flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of false, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by waves of aging, sickness, and death.
Abo kunjo son la shan zelo dege dage toba duje na jomden de yobu kap jago bombo re lo gelon ji gendun chembo dan chanjo zembe gendun chembo dan ta jidu shudo de tse jomden de damo na wa she jabe chuge na rangi tingi zela nyomba shuzo ya de tse chanjo zemba zemba jembo Baba Cheneze Wanchu Sheraki Paru Chimba Samo Cheba Nila Nambar Tashi Pumbo Ngabo Desa Laya Rajiki Tombar Nambar Tao Tene Sanje Jitu Tsedan Demba Sharibu Anju Zembo Zembo Jimbo Baba Cheneze Wanchu La Tiki Chembeso Riki Bo Kala Sheraki Paru Chimba Samo cheba chupa dupa desi la cha Ege je meba dang Chanju semba semba jembo Papa chere wanchu ki tsedan deba Chare dade bola dige je meso Shari bu rigi bu mo Kama la shera di faru du chimba Samo cheba chupa dupa de Didara nambara tawa chade fumbo ngabo desa laya rajingi tomba namba yanda kwa jesu tau su tomba wu tomba ni su so ule tomba ni shema yin tomba ni le kyan su shema yin teshin du sorwa dang dushi dang nambara sheba nam tomba wu shari bu deda chudam je tomba ni de Tini meba majeba magaba tima meba tima dan shewa tima meba kawa meba wo charibu deda wena tomba nila sume sorwa me duje me namba sheba me mime nawa me name cheme lume ime sume chame shime rome reja me cheme do migi kame bane igi kame ije nambara shebe kamye bardo yamedo mariba seba me kashi sebe bardo yamedo teshindu dunga wada kuju wada gobada dame ishimi koba madoba yame medo sheribu teda wena janju semba na toba mebe chiru shiraji parudu chimba late jinete semba jeba meji chaba mede chinje lole shindo dene nyangele debe tar chindo tuzundu nambar shubhe sange tamche ya shiraji parudu chimba late lana meba yanda bozobe chanju dungu parazo parsange so teda wena shiraji parudu chimbe nga riba chimbe nga lana mebe nga minyamba la nyambe nga dungu tamche ratu shibar chebe nga Nizumbe nga demba shiba chate shirake parudu shimbe nga meba tayata kate para sangare buddhi iso Sharibu janju samba jimbu deda shirake parudu shimba Zamola labara javo dene chumde tinge tele shimbe janju samba jimbu Baba jere se wanju la leso sheja wa jine leso richi bu tete shino tete shin Teta juje temba shindu shira je paru du chimba samo la che para chate ti shin sheba Tezo yirango jomden degi degi je ka teme Tsedan temba shiri dadi boda chaju samba jimbo Baba jere se wanju dan tamje dan tembe koro teta dan kata midan hama yindan Tisa jebe jiden yirande chomden deje sumba gomba tu om
Thus I have heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgriha on Vulture's Peak, together with a great assembly of monks and bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was totally absorbed in the concentration that examines all phenomena, called profound illumination. And at the same time, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, was engaged in the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, the Venerable Shantideva spoke to the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, saying, how should those of good family learn who wish to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, replied to the venerable Shariputra, saying, O Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good family wishes to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, should look at it like this, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is no other than form. Form is no other than empty. In that same way, feeling, recognition, karmic formations, and consciousness are all empty. Therefore, Shariputra, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are neither impure nor free from impurity. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no karmic formations, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There are no spheres of the eyes up to no spheres of the mind. There are none of these all the way up to the sphere of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, nor is there destruction of ignorance. There are none of these all the way up to there is no old age and death, nor is there destruction of old age and death. Thus there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, and no path. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, all bodhisattvas hold to the wisdom gone beyond, and because there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond falsity, they reach beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times, by relying on the wisdom gone beyond, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, most perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the wisdom gone beyond, the mantra of great insight, the unequaled and unsurpassed mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering should be known as the truth, for there is no deception. The mantra of the wisdom gone beyond is proclaimed, Hayata Gati Gati, Paragati, Parasumgati, Pati Swaha. Oh, Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, should learn the profound wisdom gone beyond. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and praised the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, saying, very good, O son of good family. It is exactly like that. The profound wisdom gone beyond should be practiced exactly as you have said. And then the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the noble Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, men, anti-gods, and spirits, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. So ends the noble discourse on the essence of the wisdom gone beyond.
Andar nando san share karasnada jigwa chimbu chwe gyuzen sta jigbe gyumabana ani jigwa pon matuya jigwa pon la jigbe gyupon go ya o ta di chunju na ta ta age nimbu top shi na shen du zamba ta nimbu top shi di ten go ya ge gyuzen di karasna nimbu top shi ten go ya ge gyuzen di 아니 집바 뽕고요. 집바 뽕라 집에 규도 모션 거를 집에 규마바나 집바 뽕고 말해. 세상다 집에 규뽕을 탄다라는 님도 없이 그냥 매매로와. 네버도 제보고요. 어디지 요래서 어디 아니 제가 님도 없이 탄다고 쉐어. 무시 님도 없이 시기 요래서
Last week, the topic was terror or fear, tremendous fear, and the need to abandon that fear. We are unable to abandon that fear when the cause remains present. And so as we concern ourselves with the four antidote powers, our reason for doing so, our purpose, is to ultimately abandon fear by abandoning the cause, that which causes fear. To do this, to succeed in this, we must apply the four antidote powers. And so we are occupied now with these four antidote powers.
예, 제가 다 직배 주승이 되는 직배승이 다 뭐하는 직배 거랑 오시엔 거로 와서 직배스. 다 직배승이 돼 아니 다 하나서 세침의 직배다. 아니 녀와다 이다기 동행이 아니 동행다 직배승이 돼 아니 남산 셈나 char하고 싶어로 와서 제가 다 딜로라 차례게 된다라. 아니 세디기 생기 루지 나서 생기 동행 벨라샤네 아니 딜러 직벌계는 빵고고 여봐도 이나 아니 다 세침하게 동네 첨부터도 아니 가르칩니다. 매번 소고 매번 소고로 와서 이 소고야 돼. 아니 유생 가서 세 딜러 조준 동네 춘주지나야 되고요 말에 야와 춘주지나 되고요 그래서 대인들 야와 되바다 동네 미드백이 유생 딜러 때네 아니 다 간다 다는 미드바 나시 치마 가두이나야 안 동해 미드바 야와 되바 이번 가두이나 찍고 지냐로 봐 제가 네 균생다 빼체는 무슨 거야 그래서
To abandon fear, we must recognize its cause. First, we must grow familiar with fear itself, the reason we experience it. We experience it because it's our future experience in the hell realms or living as preta, stations in cyclic existence that are mired in suffering. And this is a prospect for us, but it's a prospect that's difficult for us to picture in the case of rebirths in hell realms or in preta realms. So to make it more comprehensible, we focus on physical pain that's ready at hand that we know in this life, and mental anxiety that's familiar to us in this life too. And then extrapolate and recognize the future is forbidding, for this will be experienced in future lives as well. So in this life, in which we are thoroughly familiar with hedonic pleasure, the desire for satisfaction and the wish to avoid dissatisfaction, when this is true of this life, it stands to reason too then that in the future where there is experience and the possibility of pain and suffering, we would want to avoid that pain and suffering in the future as well.
Oh yeah, that under that's susu chujin susu chadyo da susu ani da karesna ani da susu la ani da tsewa yore gawu yore tsewa yore ani rangla phage tsewa do yoba indu ani rangla tsewe wangi da karichigirana dewa dugure dunge mewa tabshi chigir was 제자다디 탑시 지고야디 수수랑 제와 여바다 라니 동에 메되바 디 윤세래다 동에 메되바 디 윤세세 가진 동에 두고 여말사 랑 제와 여레스 제자다 디 빼디 아니 세딜라 빼나 세딜라 랑라 룰 나자주나 요금이 도와스 셈 마지고 주나 요금이 도 대낭시 아니 가두이나 세처럼 치마 가두이나야 직보지냐로 왔다. 그런데 빼다 최전에 도스 잘 쉐바 있는 데이터에서.
Now, the subject to whom this rationale applies is to each one ourselves, and the reason we are animated the way that we are, that we wish to avoid fear, is because we have self-regard and a love for ourselves. And with self-love and self-regard, we are motivated to seek out and secure satisfaction, and we're motivated to avoid dissatisfaction, and naturally are inclined to find ways and means to achieve achieve those things. So it is evidence that we wish to avoid suffering and find contentment. And it's natural and follows from our own self-regard and self-love. When we experience physical pain and mental hardship, these are just the sorts of experiences we wish to avoid out of a sense of self-regard and self-love. And so here we have the rationale, the subject, ourselves, and an example.
Oh, yeah, that is it. A lot of magic, Nimutopshi. Never to go with Yoba. Nimutopshi digi, and then also that Jibachimbo. My bed is looking a never chat to Yoba. Oh, Nimutopshi digi, one and Jibachimbo never chat on the and the country chagos, not Jibaki, you, and in Yumo. The Zupa never chat to be with Jibaki, Nimud was says or not. And Nimutiki wangi Jawalandi, Gadu, Jawal never gasona, and the Chua Gadu. And the Chua gasona, and the domain young boy, no support your mother was. Jessa, called Rimbato, the young we are teaching to learn, you put up she about to go your resonance.
The four antidote powers are essential. They are essential wherever we wish to eliminate our fears and terrors. And the cause of our fears are mental afflictions. Wherever the mental afflictions are eliminated, with their elimination, rebirth itself is ended. Where there is no rebirth, death itself is annulled. Where death is annulled, there's no entry for dissatisfaction, pain, discontents. So here are rationale for applying the antidote powers.
Oh, yeah, that one's wishing now. The Chua, now the Chua, the Eucharisna, Gewat. Gewat, Eucharisna, you move to Jashada, the Muslim digi, and Gewa Pangalo, Pangni, and Gewa Lady. Gewa Lady is a man, now Gavetunga, Navetunga, Chivitunga, the younger was. Chesata, Chivitunga, the Mava Chawana, gave it to me the Mava. Give it to me the Mava Chavala, you moved to pass Sabachi was. Then you move say, Papa, that you would top she's. Or the you part to you take it out into your response.
Aging, sickness, and death have for their cause birth. Birth has for its cause the mental afflictions, namely desirous attachment, aversion, and ignorance. Desirous attachment, aversion, and ignorance, these mental afflictions, toss one into cyclic existence anew, again and again, and thus continues perpetual birth, aging, sickness, and death. To thoroughly eliminate birth, aging, sickness, and death, one must eliminate the mental afflictions. And these are eliminated through the application of the antidote powers. And so we have this causal relationship.
Oh, is that it to the Lani? That is on the job, the woman on that, and it's the man of that moment. The Junju deep around some do Saban, Chizo Nimba, Chizo Nimba, better, and the Mamuchi. When Chizo Nimba to on the job, Mamuch had the Yores. Is that not Chizo Nimba to the time and the careers now? Then around the Missuzu with Nani, Cheshawayna, Nani del Chebat Kangarua, Chebat to somebody, Chebat Chisho Tana, so Chea. That in a Chebat Chonsana, and Lavada Kamba to Viata, and it took me quiet the jelly to get in the Chebatang it was. Just our dipella cherry. Any dipella channel, the jelly, the Chebatang, almost the chiggy you by Yinas, and it's almost chig you round like that. She was Amda, Chigwachi was. And the Jibachi gave a tene and the Suzuki Kanan Chutu Kamdoya. And the Suzuki Mikta down to Tukanga Shanata or Chadoya. And the Dina Suzuki Chikama, Namju, some words of Palatoya, Namju Passion to Kudroya. Oh, the day you would was said Diggy. And the Chiwi Chibata Navi Chibata Tare, the Levaina, Mamda, the chain and Telejoba Chiku was. That teacher go with Yunas. And it's a Chima Pinjela, Chima, and that near water, Yada, to look to many Kevaina, and Telejan. 네, 하장이 법 채워 동행 연구 요래. 니를 가르치네 아니 집어치고 요 말에 제가 집어치고 네 집어치고래. 제가 니를 좁어치고래. 내가 파고 치고래. 어디 니 숨고요. 그래서 가서 그 담아 되겠다. 이 교 양가 좁어치 드린 집어치라나. 아니 가감에서 까봐도 말에 현도 주바나 신지 본연지다. 셔도 진지 소주도 직진 내지 태버저 럽도 냠다 묘지 고세. 어디 지금 저시 뜻이
When the Way of the Bodhisattva was composed originally, at that time, there were customs for composition and the use of metaphor to illustrate the meaning, intended meaning was often used, and the metaphors drawn from society or the culture of the time. And so the metaphor used here is of the fear a person experiences when there's corporal punishment and a person is brought to the stake or to the guillotine and executed. For the worst crimes, a criminal will be executed. In other lesser crimes, their limbs may be cut from them, their tongue removed from their mouth, etc. These are forms of corporal punishment, especially common in times of old. Now, when one is naturally terrified at the prospect of such corporal punishment, and that terror, the expression or manifestation of that fear is described as the mouth going dry, the eyes bulging, the expression turning pale and specter-like, the whole bearing of the person changing. They're so overwhelmed by their fear of death. When this is the obvious experience that we're also familiar with, right? Then when sickness and death, pain, sickness and death are so terrifying in this life, why aren't we better able to imagine the experience in hell realms or the Preta realms, in which the suffering exceeds anything we know in this life, yet the terrors of this life are plenty terrific for us. So why is it that we're not moved by the prospect of our suffering in the future? In fact, we must be fearful. We must wish to eliminate the cause of that fear. And so the verses 43 and 44 describe this for us. The day they take him to the scaffold, where they will tear off his limbs, a man is changed, transfigured by his fear. His mouth is dry, his eyes start from his brow. No need to say how stricken I shall be when overcome and sick with dreadful fear. I'm seized by forms so horrible to see, the frightful servants of the Lord of Death.
예. 세상 나도 치외 직법 말에 보나다 랑이 답게 가려는 치고고 요바. 치외 직법 치외게 둘을 랩사나 냠답을 둘을 랩사레스. 내가 저 가르스나다 치외 직법 내도 잠바 아니 말아도 다 시다 개고 요 말이다. 뒤도 잠바 랑게 셈나래. 아니 직 내가 가르치죠 그거 대배율 나도 밀람 유나싱지만도 개고 요 말레스. 오망에 지지 제마 지지 지금 와서 그때 수수 마지막 강가 챙기레스 아니 네가 하나 수수게 치외게 감다 샤도 중앙도 수두는데 아니 셈나 감다체 아니 감다고 하는 수수 사두고 요가도 미기 튀두고 요가도 아니 되게 손아 짠짠 마도 지금 감다게 되게 단다마도 아니 수수라 지금 거기 야 다리야 여와도 토비하게 여와지하게 두주 화장 매버도 차대요레스 제단다 뒤뒤 만들었다 뭐니 냠타봐 다 수술을 딱 가제 균을 아야 매봐 뒤뒤 냠 다시 뒤뒤가 어디가 내줘res 뒤뒤 좀마다 만들어 원래 전에 뒤뒤 답시 균을 매봐 인뒤 좀마 다 딜이 비비 말레 거는 다 단단히 아니 겹세 아니 수수 다려 탑지 쳐야 돼 아니 냠냠 다 직수리가 해서
Thus, the urgency of finding some source of refuge before the moment of death comes. For when death descends upon a person, death has arrived. The sorriest moment of a person's life has arrived, the most desperate and bleak moment of all. And at that moment, it's so desperate and so bleak because there are no resources left to the person at that time. And everything that they were invested in, every last thing has become, at that moment, a mere memory. A person may recall having done this and that, but that is all. It will only be the recollection, the memory of that. For death has come, and then the event of death occurs, and in the event of death, there's the dissolution of elements and all of the physical discomfort that entails. And the physical discomfort is various, but may feel like strangulation or being led away with a rope around one's neck, or to be blindfolded and led away. At that moment, there's no hope. A person is resourceless and entirely helpless. So the most desperate moment of life has come, and it can no longer be evaded. And so the only alternative is to employ resources and one's capability before one meets with death, and find a cause for liberation before the time of death has come.
뭐야 다 되네 드링 사게데 다 치마 둥에기 동을 주에 수스 그렇지 전주고 자와 측하잖아 수시 직진 비달레스 레버 껴버 제주시 제세 템베 미제네 초시 겹도 서버 제스 시시지 다디네 초시 겸에 통내네 초시 겸에 통내네 되네 군도 이모 줄 네데 껴비 마이나 대세다기 지달차 어다 치마 지구 추대 준주고 측들이죠 그래서
Next follows how it is one later comes to suffer. And this is described in verses 45 and 46. Verse 45 on page 43 reads, "Who can give me safe protection from this horror, from this frightful dread? And then I'll search the four directions, seeking help with panic-stricken eyes." There's the first quatrain, followed again by verse 46. "But in those four directions, no protection shall I find, and I shall sink in despairing woe. No refuge will there be for me. At such a time, what shall I do?"
뭐야 그 당분이 되게 앞에 나가서 말한도 다 동행이다 나가서 다들 직과 친구 직과 시야다 직과 동행이 최초디 한 예외 동행 지기로 왔어 예외 동행 배나가서 레사도 잡아레 친구 사이는 예와 레 딩사이나 이다 레 친구 사이나 아니 둘이께서 그러서 다 레기 두부 최초디 예와 동행 최초 지기로 해서 예외 동행도 방법 배시하는 송구요레스 예와를 깨네 아니 가르치다 예와를 깨서를 아니 예와를 또 송이기다 그래서 나갈래 예송아 다 예송아 통요도 아니 가서 가르치서는 아니 화장이 깨셔도 가서 배낭 가서 대치기도 소소하나 남자로 종아이나 직소 알아도 직도 도주서 이내다 거리는 지도 셈나 남자 친구지 종아이나 아니 가르치러 가서 깨셔도 왜 그렇게 가지고 얘기도 왔어 그래서 이마루스도 깨셔가 돼서 왔다 깨셔도 왔어 아니 룰은 나자 친구 종아이나 가서 배 아니 셈 루주 우드도 검자니 우드도 르 근데 지기도 왔어 제자다 대나시 다 예외 예송어 되게 예와를 깨차는 예외 예송어 되게 통하이나 나도 다 가르치거든 답에 할래 남자께 지고께네 아니 수식이 당아 지고들이 좀 겹 두그레 삼에 셈나라 징기를 땅아 수익 겹구이랑 하면 좀 예지 연하선 러제거와 아니 수익 겹 두그레 세네 아니 다 겹어지는 배 하네 라그레 셈네 러제거로 와스 어디서 러제 어디서 담으니 다다 숨셔 망고 찬
These verses are concerned with our great terror, our fearfulness, and the suffering, the pain of terrors, the prospect that causes us the most fear being the prospect of birth in the hell realm. And the hell realm is most awesomely terrifying because that is where one experiences the consequences of one's gravest destructive actions. Destructive actions, not as grave as those, have their consequence in the experience of suffering in the Preta realm. And less grave destructive actions find their consequence in experiences of the animal realm. But the worst, most awesomely terrific fear one feels is at the prospect of a birth in the hell realms. And so that is the cause for presenting the hell realms here in this verse. Now, when one finds himself reborn in the hell realms, one meets with the henchmen of the hell realm, the henchmen of death, and frightened to see them, terrified by these henchmen, one involuntarily cries out because one is overwhelmed then with terror to find oneself at the hands of these henchmen, and so one is overwhelmed by anxiety and terror, and cries out involuntarily. Kihu, this expression of desperation. One sighs, one cries out involuntarily, and this is the natural response to the horror of finding oneself in a hell realm at the hands of henchmen. And at that moment, one will naturally have a powerful wish to find some protection from what awaits them there. And the expression that involuntarily crying out expresses that hope. Is there any hope for me? The mind has its hopes too, and so it's a hope for some intervention.
Oh yeah, that's suzuki rawa jebni ani kane landa kane suzu semnala ngamra jipeshana ani jibo pechimbu yores jedan yube tone ani suzuki ta be migdu be chimbu ta ani choshile ta ni hazu zen jeb seya tabshi chigres jeb seya tabshi chigre tidu ta jeb seya tabshi chenayang tuzu hadan ta be nyam tabale sadu jeb 다 세워이나양 겹니에 가고 겹니에 맞에 계속 겹 여버이나랑이 뭐 겹마투야 주주들이 랩사래 손으로 숨바다 시바지
The mind's overwhelmed with its fear and terror, and at that moment the eyes turn to dinner plates and look wall-eyed in the four directions for some intervention, looking for protection from one's plight in the hell realms at the hands of the henchmen of death. And it's a pitiless time for any person. It's a desperate moment for any person, and there's no intervention and no protection to be found. Or if there were, supposing there is no potential for that protection to have any efficacy.
Oh yeah, that's how she let's say never found. Angala gap to me do gap me do somebody that Suzuki space someone gap never and it gap me never gap say never the lady that so I did and Suzu send the cards and that's some young woman, the same like Moon and a good move you, 10 a good move you to the Madassem, a little bit up. To make on to make sure China and send more what you will raise on.
And with that, then, looking in the four directions for intervention and finding none, one concludes there's no protection to be found anywhere. I have looked and found myself entirely alone. And this only intensifies the awful suffering one experiences. Their despondence grows deeper, the awful despair greater.
Oh, yes, that you but you did that heats it. Need the Kevin, that need to learn it, that's to do it. And the time of that most shade is at the time, Chidan. Song Hawaii and Chigua ready in a Tadano to Daniel to do was Tenas. New Tena, Jiwali Cubi, kept Yuba Mainas. That Jamie kept 2 years that Jamie never inas, Tanga Karchugures. Karchugures, Tezitagi Chiter Chas, Tanga Karchugures, the Tamana Karchugures, that other. To do some of that, Tapsi Kari, that have never the Kangashan, so you do that in the inner that have Karichurna and a Kunjola town, Kavia have never read. You have 2 barways, that to do Tilla, and it to do the little left Hana, that Kavia have your mares. In a Jameva mares, that Kavia Sidula Tilla Magia, Tama, Jibadi. But they carry to the Magia, beauty pango water. Oh, pango and I see that. And then Chiboti Malaya, Tapsi Chedi, yours. Ila Kavia kept say yore, kept 2 years yore, or the any to say to do but you get some said to us that the Tandan is Chiku, you were the thing you reson.
The final 2 lines of verse 46 read, "No refuge will there be for me at such a time, what shall I do?" Here the subject is the refuge. No refuge will there be for me at such a time, what shall I do? The experience in the hell realms is of great misfortune, where though there is a refuge, the pitiful moment of birth in the hell realms precludes that refuge from being a refuge for that individual. There's simply no possibility of that in the final event of birth in the hell realms. And so this is the cause for the trepidation, the fear of the prospect of being protectorless after being born in the hell realms. And so then the urgency to seeking out the refuge capable of providing protection, and then finding it, ensuring that one is protected from that which they fear most, which is namely rebirth in the lower realms, rebirth in the hell realms, where the moment is now gone for there to be any intervention in one's case.
미기 로직이나 하자를 못 줘야 메시지게 하자는 거 메시지가 강해도 유에나 아주 마수가 제가 근데 삼바지도 왔어 아니 계속 내가 맞게 차나 아니 메시지 쓰는 잡았다 대고 말았어 농업자다 나동다 되게 배세 애들이 루는 거 아니 걸 막을 가도 동행형이 되고 어디도 열었어 이제 삼바시다 되게 많이야 답이 된다니 나 단다 알아들어 겹세 두야 유바 겹 유바 겹이랑 겹 두고 유바 순지 차상 유바 두두인데 단단네 아니 집어들 말이야 답시 지야 그 단대기다 냠니 지기 냠니 지야들에서
Thus, at this present moment, where there is protection to be found if one seeks it out, versus the situation one finds oneself in a hell realm, where there's no possibility of finding out that protection. With this situation, the case, one recognizes that the moment to ensure protection, ensure that one finds refuge, is to begin that process now, and to anticipate in one's experience in the hell realm unimaginable, intolerable suffering that goes on for unimaginable spans of time, 500 years, 1,000 years of continuous suffering. And there are many stories of this sort of unbearable pain experienced in the hell realms. They aren't mentioned here, but the urgency is here. The urgency of, before one takes rebirth in the hell realms, purifying one's negativity so that one doesn't take rebirth in the hell realms. For when they do, a person experiences what would be a year's length of time as an intolerably longer period of time. One lifetime of suffering, one human lifetime of a span we're familiar with, if it were to be continuous suffering, would be unimaginably unbearable. But the plight of a hell being is to experience such continuous suffering uninterruptedly for 500 years, 5,000 years. And when it's this long and continuous, there's no prospect of any relief. So now when there is the prospect of relief, where there is refuge to be found, should one search for it, thus the urgency to relying upon the refuge.
Oh yeah, that is you go to the top singing that shit in the Tibet of Junju, you go to the top, that thing to get over this. That means you were 10 top singing yours. That 10 top singing, any culture of man, Jambuji going to share with us. Cousin on the call of Jambuji shit house, Jambuji shed, and I am going to be a bush shower, a bush shire. That shall say, thank top day, Modu chair chitula, and I Jambuji in my share the yes one. That's the call of Chijuga, Jambuji.
What's the number any Jimmy top the and it's over.
Or number swinging the top. That will even take it off. Take it off, that jump to the leg was.
Up until this point, the verses have described the antidote power of remorse. And now, with the conclusion of these verses, we move to the antidote power of the support. And the antidote power of the support employs the refuge. And we have already spoken of the refuge. The refuge is the support, and the verses to come describe the antidote power of the support, namely refuge.
Oh, yeah, I am Jambuji, catching the share some Tawasaki, you know. And in Gangla, you share Jambuji, Jishit, Jambuji down, Jambu, Jabs could do share your and Jabs to land the Laya, Jambu, she do this sometime. Chesi Soy part also around. Terrain the Chesi Soy part one, Punjo Japsi is your. But under Dilla, Carriore, to Terrain Sunday, Chesi, Sanju Nimbola Chijibados, Sama Chijibados, or Chesa beauty. When you chapter your test, Chichera, or when you jump in Shagwadi, the Junse teacher. That other day, Jambu staying top share subject cousin. That the was share to think you think we want the Tadanin Tamormadi, the Tadanin and the chapter to Tambadi, and the subject is so subject.
Also, when it didn't do the Dambody and a Chisi, One may wonder why it is that preceding verses described refuge, and we took a look at refuge, and then find ourselves again for a second time looking into the refuge. The reason for this is the first presentation of the refuge was more general presentation. The way in which one goes for refuge was described in this original general description of refuge. And then two, there is a difference in the cause or the duration of the refuge. In the first case, the refuge is until death. I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Here we will find that it is until the achievement of enlightenment I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. So here we find that difference too. But the reason we occupy ourselves again with the refuge here is because it is the basis, it is the support, and the force of the support is an antidote power.
Oh yeah, that is a junju kasna. They go drove go to boss. Objective Kosela Perini in Japsuchi. He took the Chubeju Koveji one number and Sanju Samla. Sanju Sembe Sola and Tishan the Japsuchi, so that they get them secretary Kunjus, the Konis Tangi or response.
The verses describing the support, the antidote power of the support, the refuge, are 47 and 48 on page 44. Thus, from this day forward, I take refuge in the Buddhas, the guardians of beings who labor to protect all wanderers, those mighty ones who scatter every fear. And in the Dharma, they have realized in their hearts, which drives away the terrors of samsara. And in all the hosts of bodhisattvas, likewise, I will perfectly take refuge.
Oh, yeah. But the Garam, I want to share Junzi. I'm not going to get Sana, and it kept saying, Yigmares. That Yigmeba in Zans, the Junzi till a penny and a carchores, never. That had a nature of chores, a Karzanta. That's all the Jawa drove. Jawa drove guns that Junzi till a penny, Jawas to Sanjel. Sanjel Jawas to go down a song with Jiba Tajel, Gelsa is a Jawas. Drove guns to the matter, draw on the Koan Koaki, and so on and so on, draws with all the Zugi, Yami, Guendela, and the drove guns. Oh, the day drove Guendi, and the draw to Karisiresna. Koalia Tarbacheva, and so on Tarbacheva is the Java. Jobek turn, the Chana Lang the Yaki and Sanjay Oswald, sit on Winnick.
In these two verses, the triple gem is described again anew. And the rationale outlined is, should one find oneself in hell realms, one may search for intervention, refuge, but it will not be found. And so the urgency of beginning that, beginning the reliance upon the refuge now. And here, thus from this day forward, I take refuge in the Buddhas, guardians of beings. The beings are those who are migrating, perpetually migrating in cyclic existence from hell realm to hell realm, unfortunate prospect to the next unfortunate prospect, migrators in cyclic existence, but they have their protector, the Buddhas. And so these are the migrators, guardians of these migrators are the Buddhas, who labor to protect all wanderers, those mighty ones who scatter every fear. The labor to protect all wanderers, scattering every fear, is the labor of endeavoring to liberate sentient beings from cyclic existence, from the hell realms. That labor to liberate from bondage is the activities of the Buddhas, guardians of beings.
Oh, yeah, that is even you would agree. That Dobjin Jibo Gunsel, last training in Jabs, that he knew Dobjin said that Dob Chimbu said the Vegetan, there's a Jardan Miro Mudus. Cousin Dobjin said it, any Pongja Jibot in the Pachomyegi, Nimu, Dob Chimbola, Jarns, the Shichik. Yan Dobjin said it, the Dobjin. 아니 봐 좀봐 채웠어. 다가다 배진한 제자다 문제 연구도 제자 뒤인데 다단단하고 또 전부 세디 아니 다 드웨 돌아 된좀 봐. 아니 산제도 아니 또 전부 이버트 시장이도 어디 시장이 있어. 그다 가서 뒤 가서나 또 전세디 과랑 집어 탐지를 제와 신 집어 탐지를 교회 누가 이번자 또 전부 스듯이 이제도 응애 뒤가 제게 있어.
Who labor to protect all wanderers, those mighty ones who scatter every fear. The Buddhas are described here as those mighty ones. So their might is interpreted in various ways. Two principal ways are what makes for the mightiness is that the power overcoming great fear is just that, powerful, exceptionally powerful and mighty. So it's the force that overcomes great fear that justifies the use of the word mighty here. Another interpretation is that destructive action itself is mighty, and it finds its match in the Buddhas. And so then the Buddhas are mighty. And so in either case, mighty is appropriate here. But the might I choose the way I choose to interpret the mightiness here is that the Buddhas have overcome, personally overcome the causes of their own great fear, and then moreover have also overcome that which causes great fear for all sentient beings, and in this way they are mighty.
Oh, yeah, that Dobjin, what Gunsela said that top Chambustani. Then they Jibo Tamjil job to you taken, Jibo Gus cigarettes, that Jibo Gus negative Jibo setting around the same on the Luigi Naza to Zusha. Gus and neg Tadu Jibo on that. I guess on get nearly gag that Jibo or to Zusha, the Zukangal, several cigarette has never chat to a cigarettes. Or then they never said to a chief, Dobjin Chimbu. 상계 점대 저 간다다 되게 나를 상계 점대 되게 아니 집어 군 세워 지금 레스타 지금 선다 간다 원들이시라 보세요.
Such then is the mightiness of the Buddhas, a might that allows for the very might that eradicates, eliminates thoroughly all fears experienced by all sentient beings, both the temporary fears and the ultimate fears. Temporary fears are the fears we know from our life, our present life, the fear of physical pain. But the more ultimate fear is the fear of rebirth in hell realms of intolerable suffering. All sorts of fear are entirely eradicated by the might of the Buddhas. And so we say of the Buddha and the Buddha Dharma that the Buddha Dharma, the Buddha and the Buddha Dharma eliminate all fears.
Oh, yeah, that's the day Jibo Tadala Sever Chebe Sange Jumda Della, and it ringing in Jabs Che, Jabs Chedi, and it Jig Jama, Majama, who loses Jabs Chigi say at the Yomaras, and I Jamaji, but Jamas Taluchumas or Jama Chigi say at the Maras, that ringing. To train and it's Sanji Sanjuma Togi Padola, and it kept chigging is that or the Sanjel can be chatting your resonance.
Thus, from this day forward, I take refuge in the Buddhas, guardians of beings who labor to protect all wanderers, those mighty ones who scatter every fear. All fears are eliminated by the Buddha, and this is justification for going for refuge now, without any dalliance, without rather any delay, and to think instead to wait until a better time comes when one might at ease, greater ease, take refuge. To think that this year is not just a moment, next year will do. That is not the right outlook. The proper way to proceed is to, with urgency, begin now, go for refuge now, and to remain in trusting oneself to the refuge until enlightenment. And so the first verse 47 here describes the mind going for refuge to the Buddha.
Oh, yeah, I didn't give a chill, get ready. The two tube, chill, courage was several times. Oh, yeah, see, need to that dig cousin. The two silver jaw tea, and the two tube, chill the caressna. Ah, Sanji Jumdi, you, she chose or chuguch. Oh, chuguti, that didn't know she don't go to the topic. Chukangalola, there were 10 up the church in Roa. Says that to the chudi. 아니 두 첩의 최디 냠슬랑발라 때네 아니 거회지 버타다라 세바 세바인가 아니 그 최디신 최라야 잡수 치기니 최라 잡수 치고 이제 가서 거회지 버타다 세바 다다 진행이 아니 최군도 인자 틀랑 잡수 치기 있음 어야 최라 잡수 치기 어려서
And in the Dharma, they have realized in their hearts, which drives away the terrors of samsara, and in the host of bodhisattvas. Verse 48, then the first two lines are the mind going for refuge to the Dharma. They have realized in their hearts, the Buddhas. And this Dharma is the Dharma of the wisdom truth body of the Buddhas, that is direct penetrative insight into emptiness. All phenomena realized in this way are the ultimate, and comprehending the ultimate, the wisdom truth body itself as the practice, in practice is that which thoroughly eradicates all cyclic existence fears. And so one goes for refuge to this Dharma.
Oh, yeah, that is Tama. But the Javanidi, Sanju Sembe Sola and Tishan, the Japsu chess. Or the Hassan that the Degi Pabe Chuk would you want to Chiniji, Pabe, Kobat of the Yegi, and the Sanju Sembe Soka, the Delaya, and the Japsu Chigis.
And the 7th and 8th lines, and in all the host of bodhisattvas, likewise I will perfectly take refuge. These two lines describe going for refuge to the individuals who have actualized the Arya path, who have actualized the Dharma. To these Arya persons, I go for refuge.
Oh, yeah, that's another around the Kowe, Dungan Tata, several most Chetuni, Chokunjova. That Chokunjo tea, and Julangan, Simjama, Tunyeg, Sanjela, and Japs Chigini, the Yamsulanya, Sanjus and the Sokangala, Japs Chigi, that's another Kunjo Suma, Japs, Jamruches, is
and thus it is then that all of cyclic existence's various fears are eradicated by the Dharma itself. And there are persons in whom the Dharma is actualized and comprehended, and for whom it is their power. To this Dharma and to such individuals, one goes for refuge, and 1, 2, 3, one has gone to refuge to the three sublime.
That's in it, the Ola Karjada. That's Hanju and the Solar Jab Chip to the way they that's Hanju and the talk on this most Ming Jidan Hanju Samba Chazan, is a Hanju Semicula give a Chazan Chasigo, Tinane, that Miss Carne, and it Chazam Sat Chuba. Oh, yeah, Tizula, that Ming Moon and Yambuchi or Hesman.
Just
Alex,
Jubala Navy and the Junction Symbigi and Cindy Burger.
all the beautiful Maliga, other Diomata, subject Dioma, see Oma, the one Georgia,
Yeah.
or one situation, one change you see that has not Sanju and the sort of chat said it. 다니 지번 남다니 군도 상가 다니 자배양랑 다니지 다기 류디 우월기 투지 지구 마주가 제레스고 대라 냠다 말을 해도 베스 아니 비변다라 잡도 소소되기다 전주선도错了 잡으시다 시기 어려서
The Aryas who have actualized the Dharma are the Bodhisattvas here to whom one goes for refuge, but particularly, as we will find in the verses to follow, the Bodhisattvas abiding on the 10th level bhumis, in particular, are named as the Sangha refuge. So why not then read these verses here? Gripped by dread, beside myself with anguish, to Samantabhadra I will give myself. My body I myself will give to Manjughosha, gentle and melodious. To him whose deeds of mercy never fail, my Lord Avalokita, I cry out from depths of misery, protect me now, an evildoer.
This one? Oh yeah, that is so. I think in Jogi Chiba, in Jogi that, Lunga Chida, Chiras, Lunga Mangoyora. Is that a tran? Any that no longer talk any justice and use some Kudu Sambolaya and Davi Ludi over Chigi, Kirana, Jabri Chap Chigi, Chicha, dinner she Jambayalaya, and it Japs Chigi is. And it dinner she that jealousy, when you do what I'm around to same jig turn. Semjigi turla and the bell finji truba the Gumi Chiba Nang Shin do with Pandit Twitchin and Machuba, Cheris Kiran Layang, and again, the same dine, Ning Tabane, Japs Chigi, and digital when the versus number, same the Japs Chivanasi to bear the Nane, the we is water. Oh, this one.
Gripped by dread, beside myself with anguish. The dread and the anguish is the dread and anguish caused by fear of the hell realms, with its many general forms of intolerable suffering and all the particular details of those pains, which are innumerable, aren't they? And so, with this dread, with this anguish, here we go for refuge to Samantabhadra. I will give myself, give one's body to Samantabhadra. Then to Manjughosha. My body I myself will give to Manjughosha, gentle and melodious. And then to him whose deeds of mercy never fail, my Lord Avalokita. And Avalokiteshvara is the Bodhisattva who spontaneously, uninterruptedly, without ever a moment's perturbation, endeavors to bring about the well-being of all sentient life. This continuous, spontaneous, uninterrupted activity, in recognition of, one entrusts oneself to, from the depths of one's heart, with one voice, we dedicate ourselves to Avalokita.
Oh, yes. That is the Japs. That is Dinashi, and you some bus. You order the dental Japs, Papa Nangani water, saying what other, to teach you what Japsun in the Kajitona, Shinji, Ponyara Dojo. Running Chuji Chiba, Dojichan, Japs cheese for day, and it can do it. My Mutun, and you some bus of Mingman and chat. Jambuchi or response.
And the verse continues, now to the noble Kashakarva and to Shitikarva, from my heart I call, to all protectors great, compassionate. I cry to them in search of refuge. To Vajrapani I shall fly, for at the sight of him all vengeful things like Yama's host escape in terror to the four directions. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that didn't have to serve that teaching look again. Jeristic Chadon, saying Boda Jabayan, the Jeris and the Chatsava Nanshi, and then Chanju Samba, Tambodi Nagani Bolayam, and then Dag Ludi Pin Chatsigi, and then saying Bo, and then teaching do Chamba, Chamba, and then Tibanam say, oh, lots of any Tujichi or Tamjelani, 류변의 차책이 있는 거라서.
And so the homage to the Bodhisattvas continues in this way. Homage to Akashagarbha, Kshitigarbha, and Maitreya too, and to Sarva Nirvana, Viskhambin, and the rest.
뭐야, 이거 다 되네. 번역해서 동안에 도지전에 계속 치스도 맞다. 이 가르쳐는 아니 다 디세오다. 이네 왜데베스 차나 도지여다. 차나 도지 강시 토나스. 차나 도지라는 믹스에 다들 차세 치도 계속가 도와디 가르쳐는 차나 도지라 강시 토나 신지 번역해서 다 예외기 랭게 아니 직박에다 번역해서 다 랭게만 보여 들고 진다. 아니 비유 가서 집어서 못 해야 될 신앙 서울에 지금도 딱 거의 세기 거의 비유 거의 되게 예외기 레슨 거지 되도양 아니 차나 도지 통화에는 그것도 하장 차나 도지의 신도 작을 내려 좀 봐. 아니 하장이 마음 지부 유배인자 모두 짜나는 초시를 봐. 아주 미신나서도 배우도 다시 배워라 써봤는데 아주 내 제마도가 되는 지기요. 일단 나야 전화를 그게 차트는 류변이 아니 나라도 신기도 되게 동행 영어와 저러지스. 어째 이들 겹치기 어디서 뭐래서
These verses describe going for refuge to these many bodhisattvas, but in particular, the verse is a bit longer as well as homage is paid to Vajrapani. And the reason for this is the henchmen of death, the fearsome individuals in the hell realms who wear snakes and tiger skins and other frightening accoutrement and clothing. These most fearsome individuals facing Vajrapani themselves are terrified by Vajrapani, who is so threatening, who threatens violence, who threatens wrathfulness. And in the face of Vajrapani, these terrifying henchmen of death with their tiger skin accoutrement and the rest flee to the four directions. And so Vajrapani is so fearsome himself that we here entrust ourselves to Vajrapani, who is capable of frightening away the fearsome.
뭐야, 다디 군주들 막 jamru디 다 근데 이게 바지 이게 고골 수주 골 jamru디다 디 jamru 니시에 바로 훈이한 고바다 균지 가가 요레스 다지 이게 jamru시에 돼 지난 jamru 뭐 소야 치도 시에 바로 단데 대 jamru 시에 돼 이거 시에 때나 jamru 고고 요레 디시에 비치도레스 아니 유대 가가레스 이게 유디 다시 건도셔봐나지 제시 소에 받고서 안데 제시 장주님이 모르지 받고서 티고 또 티고 좀 비장도 시기 어려서
We find in these verses again the refuge described, and the description differs from the preceding refuge. It differs because the first was for the purpose of identifying the refuge, and here we are employing the refuge as the application of the antidote power of the support, the force of the support used in purification and confession. Also, an underlying difference, as I said, is the first presentation of the refuge was phrased, I go for refuge until death. Until the time of my death, I go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. But here we find that refuge is continued through to the point of one's enlightenment. Until enlightenment, I go for refuge. And so this too is a difference, and this is a difference making for this second presentation of the refuge being the presentation of the Mahayana refuge.
Oh yeah, that is it. That is it. That yobachi 유배고는 토샤 so 대봤다 간데 subject로 되도 접수 손에 것이 두 바센 다 배적 그런 subject로 제외나 다 간다 어디 제단 때디 따와도 그랬나? 문제 취지 갈때 다는 지고 체도는 절라 제도 질라는 지번이도 써도 써서다 즉시리요 해서
Next follows verse 53, which describes how one, having gone for refuge, is meant to accomplish one's ends in conformity with the instruction of the refuge. And verse 53 reads then, formerly your words I have transgressed, but having seen these terrors all around, I come to you for refuge, praying, swiftly drive away my fear.
야, 다 문제 취지 갈때 교바 템베르 하나도 내가 문제 제베 내가 되라 라게 너로와 시네 니 교바께는 다 소화돼 봐스 야 지디 된다 되죠 저래서 다 가제 문제 취지 갈때 문제스다 단에 티베게 다 개와 뭐 만남술라 아니 가르쳐서 단다고 하나도 직보게 대화 마토베 동에 망부 날때와 어디서가 가르치는 중화래 그래서 많이 얘기가 아니 그냥 게 군주 숨기 아니 아주라 람때베 람디 아니 개와 두셔서도 아주 개와 두비어 말에 디고 뽕셔스라비어레 디고 뽕이어 말에 디고 마뽕어지 디고 두 개와 마주버치 개와 뽕 디기 디디친 대바 인자 아니 그냥 깔에 대바레스 깔에 주지 깔에 대바 근데 대바 인자 아니 다 다다바도라 하도록 대화 처음서 농행이 나서 다 드린데 손대서 다 뒤단에서 다 드린 먼저 아니 배 산지기 땜바다 제 최된배 아시기 계획신이다 제네 아니 디발라 디바이 방어시 아니 배다 거기 직과 치부터달라 아니 예바 통네 아니 저랑 계속 치기 어디서 원해서
The verse describes the feeling of remorse in this way. Formerly words I have transgressed, but having seen these terrors all around, I come to you for refuge, praying. The remorse felt here is remorse for, and a supplication to, the refuge follows it, is remorse for violations of the instructions in the practice of the path laid out by the refuge. In past lives, that is, formerly, those instructions have been transgressed. In past lives, one has experienced untold suffering and never experienced any lasting contentment. And the reason for this is one has transgressed and violated the spirit of the guidance of the refuge. And so the consequence has been that though the refuge instructed one to engage in virtuous action, one did not, and as a result, did never experience contentment. And one was advised to avoid non-virtue, but engaged in non-virtues, and as a result experienced intolerable pains. So the guidance of the refuge has been transgressed and violated, and the consequences have been these. But from today forward, realizing that each has encountered the Bodhidharma through the presence of spiritual mentors, one has comprehended what non-virtues are, and one has felt fear for their consequences. With this all understood now, one knows to go for refuge. And so I come to you for refuge, praying, swiftly drive away my fear.
야, 나 단다 봐도라 아니 얘기 저랑 까시 두두 마송 배 나올서 본다스 나다 친주 내초라 접수 치기 접수 치는 배 저랑 아 배다 간제 고백이 집어 타달래 아니 뉴도 잡았어 저렇지 있어 어디 잡도 쉬고래 손
And so then here is the acknowledgement of past transgressions and the commitment to go for refuge here in order to thoroughly eliminate all cause for fear. And so the line, swiftly drive away my fear.
야, 다 디네 데려와다 디네 That the all the sick the that in the margin kundu chebe top and that the what John la bear river. That the what John la bear river. And the candice race na that the pay on the what John la jar river and it's pay on the shape by nas the pay on share chunju sick garsna. Hamen neji jina yangs member naji jagona dejala so yeji neji taktab jim goes or the takade diwa pong river you then the pay on the tempas or the resonance.
Next follows description of the force of applying the antidotes. And first, we look to the purpose behind energetically purifying one's destructive impulses, one's non-virtues. And this purpose is illustrated through examples. And we begin in this way. Likening the urgency of purifying nine virtues to the urgency of curing any illness. And this begins with verse 54. For if alarmed by common ailments, I must implement the doctor's words, what need to speak of when I'm constantly brought low by ills like lust and faults 100-fold.
Oh yeah, that is one. That's that will better channel Sunguyaris. Hamen neji jina yangs around the Tedilla around the same Naza, same guitar, the Dunge, Luigi Naza, better than Luigi Naza to go now. That Tibata begging out another that Hangameva Yoro that Tamaki Nedilla and the Rangi Kyovido, Neg than that neg to Chiwa than Navi, Jibale, Kevi Chidu, and Membagi. Not remember thinking of Membagi, Lavi Javana, Shizi, Yangu, Yunas. Any time I took a bed, ne better neg none be net Hollywood subsible, ne John, ne super what the data will any bed, Dejala soba, Jeva Tedag Nella, Carichini, any this member of Tengu, remember Tengu race, or this better turns and Sunguya resonance.
The verse provides an illustration of where we find urgency. And we find urgency in attending to our illness, mental illness, and physical illness. Mental illness is anxiety and the rest. Physical illness is the headache and gastrointestinal illness and pains of this kind. But when we face death and illness, we know well to follow the advice of any physician who is attending to us and attending to our illness. And when the illness is chronic and would be terminal if not treated, we know very well to rely upon a physician and to follow their counsel.
Oh yes, that also been said that when Lungunaza in a Tratana carry in by Ina Yang Kandarta, Tamebe negative, not native, and native only chiva tone, and it tell a jet of chair, and remember think it was, member think it, member 10, and remember Susu Deva Yubati Sama Juba, and it's Deva Meva Sajuada, and it's Susu better to you in another. Susula Kapchik, there was Subula Suba in Nayang, and the Maseva Seata. And it's a matter third of the test, Tauja Reba in another Sema to at least your day. That Tamasuzuki, and it's neg Nazala to Chiwala to do, and it's Subu Shako in the Chat, the Rebu in the Tubu in the Karichinaya, and the Membala, and the Capture was Membeg Kerangis. Kerang Rugo goes name or Mansing Maros, and Kerang Shaggy 2 beans name. And the member by 2 roaches, Sharoches, Laguras. It is the thing with us, Inas, around the pet neck, ill to do a net. And a bed to mail it. Koveg to mail a much giver Chinegi, Dejala, Shatan, the Pimo, and Magella Sobagi. And in Tedag Yeva Tedala. And in tanda neji taba nangshin chini kanda tat pake memba tengu kore, memba tenba mase, memba ki laba nangshin, ani nyengu kore, kanda tat memba nani memba chodu juba, ani chik tat kanda tendegi ne tita se tuya ki memba chodu juba tengu kore, tat tende tenya chindola, ani tat memba sanje kuncho, sanje tiki tat tungen tamche le kyobar che, kyobar lamtuen tunyi di, ani sanje nyaji rwa chida, sanje nyaji di, ani sanje le memba nashi, tengu kore, tenba nashi, ani sanje ki, nga zula ma labze jabati, nga zula nyengu chigir wate de re sunu.
In this life, mental illnesses such as depression, or whatever the illness is, when we see that it may be terminal, we feel the urgency of addressing the underlying illness, however it needs to be addressed. And though normally we don't tolerate pinches to our skin, injections, or anything that we might find uncomfortable, a bit uncomfortable, when the doctor says this is terminal, unless we say go in and cauterize this, or go in and do a bone graft here, or do a series of injections here. Faced with the possibility of death, we will agree to any procedure, no matter how gruesome it may be. And so when we're willing to do this for our physical body, then when we comprehend that the mental afflictions cause the suffering of cyclic existence to be perpetual for us, and the mental afflictions are desirous attachment and aversion and pride, arrogance, and the rest. These have been diagnosed, as it were, by the supreme physician in the person of the Buddha. There are doctors whose diagnosis is unfailing and accurate, and they are the best among physicians. We have best among physicians in the person of the Buddha, who exposed all mental afflictions. And so just as we know to rely upon the most talented physician for our physical illness, so too should we rely upon the supreme physician of the Buddha.
rangi chiwa da ne le kyobe chido memba ten memba ki ngashi chigures he nashin ne gi nane beta ne hajang ne be sabshindu sabchewa ani de nimu deja nimu tusun go wangi chunga ne tizo ani dule page kyobar chebala ani memba chodu juba ani ta tamje sangi ko san tengi jamne sangi de tengores and tembe maze sanjegi ani ta kerangi ne di thayala ani thad di chibure chö di chibure tengere temba na singa ram nyamne cheba yina ani karchigresna ani ne ta nyumo tu tung nele ani targa chi tugures and tirin zile deja na chotna chige so
and just to recapitulate, when ill, we refer to a doctor for treatment, and of all forms of sickness, the chronic illness of suffering the mental afflictions, the three poisons, including ignorance, that chronic illness is alleviated by the supreme physician, the Buddha. And the Buddha has counseled that when implemented, when followed, when the Dharma is practiced, one is able to thoroughly liberate oneself from the bondage of the chronic illness caused by the mental afflictions, the three poisons. And so here we will conclude this Dharma exposition for now and begin our Q&A. So if you have any questions, and we can discuss whatever it is you have in mind.
Yeah, it's
Thank you so much, Tishala. In there's a footnote in this version that footnote 41 that says Yama, the king of death, not a sentient being, but a symbol and personification of death. It's describing Yama as not a sentient being. And so in thinking about the henchmen, are they also not? Is this something that's generally understood that Yama is not a sentient being? And then in addition, are the henchmen sentient beings? When thinking about when encountered at death by the henchmen, so my understanding is from these verses that best thing to do is go to, calling on Avalokiteshvara, Manjughosha, etc., as for protection. But I'm also wondering if they are sentient beings, if the henchmen are sentient beings, is in a way that what I'm afraid, sort of in this lifetime, people who have a lot of power, who are very negative or dangerous, when I encounter those people, I try to develop feelings of compassion for them. I'm wondering, is there any value, or is it dangerous or hubris even to try to have compassion for the henchmen, if they're even sentient beings? Do you need the copy?
So, no, I have it here. I just want to make sure one thing. 이제 네, 다들 와서 네 춘죽되기 아니 죽대요. 아니 친 가셔야 그셔요. 다들 스시지기 아니 센치든데 아니 그셔도. 다니 찍을 가르치듯이나 다니 신지는 신제 세리디 강사랑 말해. 다니 천등이 된다로 아니 신제 세리디 강사랑 말했어. 아니 친구도 나서 직접 제자만에 신제디 아니 강사를 말했지. 지금 당부디 아니 근데 아니 치칼모 신제기 포냐 된서 아니 랩네 직접랑 용으로 근데 남기는가 아니 미 특수 단계는 랍난다 왕겨 단계는 신앙사바직 아니 특수 잡아라 바로 미들라야 아니 닝세케 탑책이요 다니 신세기 포니아 된서 아니 툭네 아니 신세기 포니아 된서 강사 레마레 아니 지어 책 요버체 근데 아니 강사 예나 아니 바로 미 바로 강사 델라니 닝제케고 그러베 써보셔서
다 신지스는 아주 만난 아주 간가 들리다. 신지스는 강사 신지비 강사를 잘해야게 고급지 두지직 양 신지스도 담바 강사를 맞아야 없이 시작한 근데 고급들이 니스요 에스직체 아니 제가 다 신지스도 아주 배낭 아주 들리를 배낭 잡을링이 다보슬라나 상바딩 없이 다보세도 어디나신 아주 미기 속 다보쳐르디 아니 신지스냐 곧 로스모스한테 요레스 아주 제가 들리 이게 다다 신지스에 아주 소진이 아주 소 너버진이 이 신지 아주다 제가 신지식스도 아주 소 교버진이 신지식 신지 매우 점이들 신지식 제가 신지승인데 아주 소 주니도 참지를 강사하게 명을 표시다네 대시 냠내체 요레스 참지도야 강사 많이 버터는 다음에 가장 아주 소 진이지 porque chile tu su yoba si de lisi nyamne tone and de shi de lisi yung we are 한번 더 뒤라고
no. 죄송한데 강사니 이 인베스 시샤베니 아니 갑된 책이라. 근데 대담보디 아니 저식
또 신지 시 아마도 신지 식스에도 봐 신지 봐 좀 얘기 이제 다른 데서 아야 감지도 신지스도 맞아 그 소진이 그 유모들이야 신지스 민다네 남매지야 이제 그 두두 지시자 단어들 이어서
그래. 지자니 책라니 강사니 베제 책라 강사
말은 가사들이 말다 그 냠내지도
라서
냠내지도 아니 맞아 답변나 맞아 자고고 냠내도 지도
라라
신지를 돼서 뭐 거기 미기 소니스
라서
제바체 그래 냠내지도 냠내지도 다 참지도 양 나기 규기 유모들 거나 신지 명단에 아니 거의 소 중에 유모들에서 유모는 문제지고 삼선 두부두서 유모 삼선이야 미기 수 신지도 한다고 이제 수 거는 되게 이제 고급인데 냠내지도 좀 네가 삼는 땅 열에서
야 아니 강사 예 강사니 레마레 키치티드 아니 심친 레마레 심친
다 섬제 코섬제
아
바벨레 섬제 가도 신지시 가도 신지 내에서 열어와 신지시 신지 내에서 열어 신지들아 가도 신지시 코라도 열어와 세상 코 섬제레스 섬제레 코 가도 네 페머싱이 말을 네버싱이 열어와 세상 코 섬제레스
재산 심친레죠 얘는 강사 이면 그래서
섬제 강사 이거 차이
이거 자기래
제가
어
아니 삼성은 미마이 뭐 이모로야 시지 민다고 와서
재산이 재산 심친 제작 그래 아니 신제 세례 심친 제작 여버치
지라버치가 민다 신지스라 비오레스
성분
삼성 냠내지도 이모로 신지 민다네 아니야 냠내지 같은데 요래서
Yama, the Lord of Death, is a sentient being, and then there is a utility to recognition of the Lord of Death as a sentient being, and as insofar as one can use that sentient being for the purposes of personifying both the destroyer of the Lord of Death in Yamantaka, the destroyer of the Lord of Death, and in personifying or anthropomorphizing the mental afflictions which inflict pain and suffering upon the person. So the Yama is a sentient being, and Yama has a use in practice as for personifying harm, and for also personifying that which overcomes death itself. And even in the same way that we speak of Brahma as Brahma as the as protector of the world, Yama is the protector, or the one in control, the controller of the vital force, and the one that can harm vitality in a person. It is the influence upon vitality that is Yama is. So there's some actual, maybe some other parts to your question.
Yeah, so well, it was just, I was confused when I saw that, that he wasn't a sentient being, and I always understood him to be a sentient being, so I appreciate the clarification. And then the other piece was around the henchman, And also with regard to, and even with regard to yama, that what does it mean to feel compassion? Is a yama a being for whom we should even have compassion, or is there some arrogance to thinking as yama just playing his role? In the same way, I don't feel compassion for Brahma, say, for example, right, or Indra, or any of so is there? I mean, and thinking of them as samsaric beings. I don't know. I'm just confused about how to think about them. And also the henchmen. Similar.
다 아니 신제디 아니 신제 세리디 아니 세르킨디 심진레 라서 아니 디 칭기압사데라 아니 심진 마레스니 칭기압도 이네 라서 아니 세시 나와라 주지제 되네 지단 신제 포니아 된서 심진 레마레 아니 디 신제기 포니아 아니 툭네 아니 파르 아니 닝제케 케 고서르베 아니 지단 아주 아니 두고 당긴데 아니 툭네 수단 툭나야 아니 닝제케 고로
맞대네 말했을 때 신기 번역생인데 수수기 레단 거유백 고 인지기 코가 가져라 맞고 두중 가져 너버지년 난신 전에 저를 막아 전에 아니 저 두고 다다 아니 수수 빼나 가지고 미 갑대로 유바이나 아당 가지고 빼나 지금 가지고 지금 요다나래나 코에 달 코가 말너베지 그래 내고 갑대 잡아서 선바되어 와 신지 번역생도 된대기 줄 말했어 신지 번역생인데 바람 쪽을 내사를 제부디 용구에서 이게 예 레디가 모두 체네 아니 퀄리티고 동에 양중이들에서 네 거절로 너버싱에 되게 그저 말했어 내가 가서 청관을 좀 뭐게 틈날 이 얘기도 믿을 요로 모두 가지고 다도 지금 말아 모두 가지고 가서 수수 틈 넣어 틈 막혀 있다 셔바탕에도 와 옛날에 콘도 가지고 있다 유목 왕의 사배 레디 봐야 티도라 아니 고속이다 나도 틈지 지기가 돼서
야 드네 아니 그렇게 니 버스무데 아니 아니 하상바 아니 왕주 가서 버델라 그러다 그래 아니 닝제 코르바바라 레마레 아니 코르바바 예나디 아니 닝제 케고라 파 닝제 케고라
고 동해를 껴 동해를 제나선 동해를 제나선 미지 찍으러 와서
these henchmen, the language itself is figurative here. These henchmen are our karmas, the karmas that inflict suffering upon us, and so these are meant figuratively for the purpose of introducing us or familiarizing us with the way in which our karmas, our mental affliction and karmas cause for us suffering, as though we are handled by henchmen, the henchmen of our karma. Now, so in the sense in which we meet with some adversary and the person is our adversary, and that this isn't the way we should understand these henchmen. They're used figuratively. They just in the figurative way. This is like the guards or the judge in the court and the guards around the criminal, the one who has been charged with the crime. They aren't there they are there for the process of meting out the justice through the court system. They aren't an adversary or someone who's inflicting, who's an adversary to the person charged. They are part of the process of meting out justice, and so maybe understood in this sense. And the Brahma and Indra and the rest are samsaric beings, and as they are, they experience suffering, and one is to feel compassion for them.
근데 저랑 보이도 되는 신기리 강사 말했어야지.
강사 말했어, 쌤지 말했어.
쌤지 말했어야죠. 네, 그냥 아주 된대다. 그냥 유모라. 아니, 바로 신지 제시 유모. 제베 투주 요로와 어 근데 내가 봐는 뭐 강사 말어 심지 말해 저는 단진 신지 명단에 아니 어디 지고 들이요
다진 남민다네.
단진 신지 명단 아니면 지고 들이요 어디들은 들이 코스 디 말해 심지 말어.
Now, here in the footnotes where it says that Yama is not a sentient being, a context in which Yama might not be interpreted as a sentient being is when Yama is the personification of the mental afflictions, and in that context, then this would be a justified comment, or in which self-grasping is personified, and in such a context, then this comment would be justified.
Yeah.
Jason.
Having grown up Christian, the ideas of heaven and hell and God and Satan, I got rid of those ideas, and so to read this is interesting. It's interesting to hear Yeshua talk about the hell realms as mental aspects or as our karma. I'm just curious about, because when I think about these things, I often look through it through the lens of the Heart Sutra, and I'm just curious if you should like to comment on that a little bit, because I worry that I'm too dismissive, and maybe use the Heart Sutra as a way not to worry.
네. 그래서 아니가 아니 주인도 그렇다 아니 이슈기 최도 이슈기 하간라 아니 저기요. 아니 제가 아니 이슈기 라마든스기 닌텐체네 아니 토리다 아니 냐와디 닌텐체네 아니 직접 아니 랑네 아니 최능여로 최능여로 최책여로 라마든스 아니 때 직전 고파보여 버체 때네 이슈기 갑대 자킨 아니 세든 아니 세르킨 티 된서 아니 그 랍네디 니아와단 토리기 남샤던데 여러 다 아니 제상데 아니 뭐만 내게 따와디 빵바이바 아니 도르바이 아니 양가라니 슝디 전에 게시기 아니 제시기 아버지 아니 전에 양가르티 니아와단 토리 니아와단 라서티 tik들도 아니 통용도 아니 제단 제상 이 뭐서와니 니아와 세리디 니아와 아니 사자랑 인 레마레 티오디 쪼디마 티 유샤스 데 나랑이 삼단단 하나스 람나 데 셔럽 님보 시르샤네 아니 니아와단 토리디 아니 무슨 드비야요 말해 아니 사마디 코르도와 얘네 직제나 사마탄단데 야메나 고알렌 렌탄디 테스 노리엔 드로 사미도 간세나게 아니 셔럽 님보 디시르샤네 니 최탐세디 도리 잡고 아니 로게도와 제상 오 티가나 티서버셔서 버셔서
자, 저 당고대 연두변나 예수기 지dengi prodan 시기래 자반 시기래 이내 콜로 지den 고바고 예배토는 지den 제단 시기로 와. 다 단단하죠. 아주 셰디 카르는 지den 고바고 생에디 지기 동에 제게다 지기 동에 양이 되게 깨져 말했어. 다 동에 양고고 있나요? 수수수버래 동에 되고매바 대한 수술을 했어. 수수가 동해 양이 요한테 미션다 지금 수수 동해 때네. 근데 수수 동해 양한테 말했어. 랑게 니무 투수기 와도 쇼리에나 아니라 레기 되고 동해 용 그래. 니무 투수기 와도 쇼르면은 레기 되고 동해 용 말했어. 당부터 뭐가서 체벌때 어디를 해서 당부.
First of all, the Christian cosmology involves the creator God, and there's no such God in this creator God in the Buddhist view at all. and it's the creator God and mechanisms that they are in charge of influencing that decides punishment and reward. There's no such mechanism in the Buddha Dharma. Instead, one causes oneself brings about causes for their experiencing suffering as a consequence, or creates causes for the experience of satisfactions in consequence. It's all one's own undertaking, and so when one is lost to the influence of the mental afflictions, one experiences these consequences, dissatisfaction. When one avoids losing all autonomy to mental afflictions, one secures contentment insofar as they have it. So this is the really most salient difference.
야, 단 이거도 저랑 단다. 그게 먼저 단다기 동해단 유단 동해 제부 시에 대하게 아니 당연히 송기 동해단 예외 동해 시에디 수수기 레기 박자기 제부 미야기 지시지레스 어 디레스 다 단다 실행님보다는 아주 매매 세디 고 탄이도 매매 계시 시기요 말레스 가르스는 아주 쌤그 남도 나와 배 차백이 유시도 좀 쉬우지 그 야고 통야다 세당이 유들을 하장 믿고 통도야 그 되게 남도 갔다당 니 유들 아주 로고 따와 난신 그 유기 띵이 요 말했어 유기 띵도 유지디 아니 로고 남도 따는 요구요래서 니다 동이가 따와 세당 데려왔어 니 단담도 집에 단담도 최대기 내로 단담도 집에 배고던 따다래서 한예도 인지미지 여보고 와래서 제가 뒤로 빼나 딱 나스라도 단단 나스라도 뭐 빼다 나르셔도 나스도 빼가 남아서냐 나 참아서냐 나 기부고니 두고 먹으니 되게 아주 좋았어 때문에 남도나 되게 아주 좋았어 근데 나한테 가르스는 민기 딱 왔던 게 여름마도 단단 아주 그 생각나고 따바나시 여 말했어 데코 빼도 따다 또 시험이 뭐 나타다 빼도 되지 와 다 말하기 셈디 유무 두순 왕도 쇼르이나 왕도 쇼르베 겐기 내 제부지 샤르 내 녀버지 샤르와 내 녀버지 제부 동에 용고야디 내 준디기 춘이 차대라서 동에 유무기 제부 동에 계획이 유 제부디 셈비 그런 내로 제 차대라서 제가 디고 거기에 다당하고 직선 남도 차려다 이렇게 이제 말해 다 수주고 내 셈비 지당 말이 내가 누리시로 왕기 박sem나 박자셔 박자디 제가 미니어디 그 디고 가르치기를 동의지요 배나가서 미를 배나 들고 동의도 있는 거 미리 동의요 이다 동의다 예외 동의서 좀 가서 다 빼려오셔 드시 좀 남아도 그래서 가고 여러 왔어 다 들고 동의도 많아도 미기 동의나 미기 동의요 좋았어 그래서 그 내기 지부 미는 뭐가 어디 데서
Karma causality that determines our experience of dissatisfaction following non-virtues and satisfaction following from virtuous constructive activities. This presentation that involves the description of fortunate realms and the description of hell realms. The karmic causality itself is a reality in which, or that occurs through impulses becoming dormant and then being activated again, and through dormant impulses that are destructive, finding reactivation at a later point, that causes the consequence of the experience of suffering and dissatisfaction. So this is the deterministic mechanism through dormant impulses that are reawakened. And so we have in the Heart Sutra an analysis of imputation, the reification of phenomenal appearance through imputed naming of appearance. And that reification of phenomenal appearance and the activity of imputed naming causes anger and desire, attachment, and other impulses and intentions of mind. And these do occur, though the Heart Sutra describes the error under analysis, the way in which imputed or inherent existence ascribed to through the process of imputation to phenomenal appearance is erroneous or inaccurate, and the absence of any intrinsic nature to phenomenal appearance conforming to how it is imputed to be, the absence of any such reality to phenomenal appearance is the lesson of the Heart Sutra. This doesn't nullify nominal truths, though, or nominal truths, the sort framed by the activity of saying, hey, I intend this, I seek out this, I avoid this. These are nominally true and relevant, but there's no ultimate reference that conforms with the imputed name and activity of imputation. And so for the mind, when it is thoroughly influenced by mental afflictions, it engages in negative actions. And in this paradigm of the mind, those negative karmas, those impulses, go dormant and lasting, and are involved in a causal relationship with subsequent dissatisfaction. And so to constructive impulses, virtuous actions have their consequence in satisfactions. And this too is a natural paradigm of the mind, and it isn't mere nominal truth either. And so this causality that has to do with dormant impulses is a event, or are events that we see that are apparent to us. They're apparent in the misfortune and the experience of beings in the animal realm. It's not as apparent to us how things play out for individuals in the Preta realm or in the hell realms. This is only described when we take on authority, but we see plainly too that human beings suffer, and this is the ripening of destructive impulses for them.
쌤이 유준아 유 마다와지 배 매봤다나 체달을 롱 제가 땅아 열 있는 여당디 아니 쌤이 또배기 파 민기 딱던지 딱다 샤고로 마도 그 또배 딱던데 하바지 잡로 파 된거나 체달을 통해서 딱다 통해 것이라 그랬어. 그래서 우마세디 딱다다 체단 얘기 이거를 제네 아니 끼를 딱다 내버려와 우마스가 그랬어. 일단 계란 다 도와서야 돼. 그저 약고지가 싸워라. 이네 다 도와서니 다 되처럼 제버디네 싸우거나 아니 마선다 나도 여당다 제지는 타마 다 많이 주지리고 왔어. 어디 제버디랑 쟤는 로래서
Now, the mode of the ostensible I must be considered or analyzed in a stable, firmly grounded moment of its appearance, a moment in which the ostensible I can be weighted for its intrinsic reality in the correct, moderate way required. That is, the ostensible I is a conceptual imputation on a phenomenal experience, but the range allowed to this experience is a controlled range. If the ostensible I is said to be conceptual, and conceptual imputation is allowed the widest interpretation, then it has no content whatsoever, or rather, if the conceptual imputation if conceptual imputation is given too great a weight, then one risks falling into an eternal view of the ostensible self. Now, if it is given too little weight, and mere nominalism is mere and not substantial at all, then one will fall into the error of nihilism. So one must weight the ostensible I properly so that one doesn't range, in the one case, into eternalism by giving too great a weight to conceptual imputation and nominalism, or one may range too far in the direction of nihilism by giving it too little weight, the nominal or ostensible I. So thus one must find a middle here, divested from overweighting or underweighting the ostensible nominal I. And so you in your doubt, or you in your concern here for correct analysis, find the right weighting of the nominal or ostensible I.
어이 이제 딱 만들어 전화도 내쌤 나 이게 뭐시엔 뭐다 네 뭐시도 아니 동반이 뭐마신 봐 마다 내쌤쌤 뭐시엔요 말 제가 아주 동반이 개침부 차고 해야지 생기 내로 나세 내내로 나한테 어디다 맞세니 단예 매봐 아니 나 여봐 다 되게 다니지 되지 당예 두고 거래스 대상은 말은 통해서
좋아, 다 가르상아 아니 내가 다치제 되니 동이 얘기 뭐시라. So the ostensible I, when it is analyzed and done properly with the discovering of its unfindability, yet the acknowledgement of its nominal relevance, in that combination, you find the neat and proper discovery of emptiness. So it is that you begin with the correct weighting of the ostensible I to find its unfindability, yet acknowledge its nominal relevance. And this is crucial to the correct fathoming of emptiness. So now we've run right out of time, and so I apologize.
Lome mare je don rowa ye na de gave ombo da girchi. Perma sumbe seran kundu ya jave yangi dewe jesu. Tembe rimba kunzan namgi jo yine rube jena nije jo. Rangi jijin tobe lamgi ne shudra sewe chanve taki. Roe yige mumba seje Yahweh temba yurin temba renjin shogi magyaba jabya nyamba gyurwe shode nije chenbu yirabu gyaba pende teje sewar chebwa seje Yahweh mejun chile leju trandu lamgi rinde Tadu namgi yila pede jin Yahweh zeba ringu gyogirji Namzan duge dungin ruje jin Gegen seje medan mime Tera kundu Yahweh mabayi Namda lamdan rewa magirji Kanze teba jola chujuji Suje rula tumba deyiti Tuten namgi tatu roje je daji gyaso chugun gyalgyuchi.
From my two collections, vast the space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time. May I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of the paths of the complete teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I offer this treasure of happiness to aid all sentient beings. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by following the complete graduated path to the enlightenment and the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings that eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths never be butted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere.
Lage jine zabe gewandi dendan roa guna gambe Kembara jizu losan rabai tembe nimbo rindu seje sho Kare rave kurve shinkande pendan deva malu jobe Keren zima tenzin gasuri shabe sidi bardu den yürücek Chanve babu jinar kemba da gundu zambu deyan dejinde Dena gungi jesu dalu je gewa de la tamje radu Shebe gewa tamje je ngoba kanda shudu mbade Dagi gewe zawa digu ya Sambu jeje radu mbade Chanju zenju rinpoche, agi bana kiyu. Yewa nyamba meba ya, kune kondu.
The virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Lodong and Dark Bodhisattva. In the land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chinrati Tinting Council, please remain until cyclic existence is ended. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, also I dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these rich virtues with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious thus gone ones of the three times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva deeds. May the supreme jewel of Bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more.
Thank you.